Right, you are live.
Nice. Now, do we have to be on YouTube as well, or no? Should I start?
No, you can start.
All right, it's Michael Harden, Norwalk Parking Authority. It is January 27th annual meeting, or not annual meeting, I'm sorry, monthly meeting. 6 o'clock. I'd like to start off with, let's get the agenda in front of me, shall we? Hold on one second. There it is. Excellent. Public comment.
So far, we have no participants from the public.
All right. So we're not, we have nobody from the public that has joined us for comment. So we'll move past that and talk about the approval of the minutes from Wednesday, December 16th. Can I have a motion to approve as read? Eric, do you have any changes to the minutes?
No, I can move. I can move that.
Excellent. Judd, can you second that for me?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Aye. The ayes have it. All right. That's unanimous. So we'll let that go into the records. And then the approval of the minutes from the Parking Authority special meeting, Tuesday, January 12th. Are there any changes or corrections there? If not, I'll take a motion to pass to accept as read.
I'll make a motion.
Judd made a motion. Eric seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
That is a unanimous vote as well. Put those into the records. I have a quick chairman's report here. Just stalling a little bit, hoping that Tom comes. I'm sure he'll be here. I just don't know when. Come on, Tom. So, real quick report. You know, we're a month into our second half of the year in a pandemic. We got a little bit over 5 more months to go here, and we are going to be looking pretty heavily at the budget. Hi, Judd.
Hi there, everyone.
There you are.
We're going to be looking both at the budget of what's going on right now. Stothy's going to give us a report in his financial operating report segment about where we are, and then we're going to talk about where we think we need to be for 2021. And I think it's pretty important because we have to discuss where, what we think this pandemic has done to us and how we're going to recover from it and when, what the timing of it is. The other few things that I wanted to talk about here was the East Avenue lot has been, I don't want to say commandeered, but I will. It's commandeered, has been re-commandeered, has been taken back. They are using it. There is some heavy machinery and some storage equipment and other trucks and things on it. And Vanessa will not be able to join us tonight, although in the Capital Report number 6, Jessica is going to fill us in a little bit about the East Avenue lot and as well as the North Water lot and the plans for the demo of the IMAX and the spaces that they will need from us to make that happen temporarily. Jessica actually has a little bit of a presentation for that and some mapping and some conversation there, which we will get into during the meeting. We didn't do our workshop Monday, but we are going to get a chance to discuss it. And in your agenda under 7C, we will get a chance to talk about where our next budget needs to land and how that needs to operate in place of the workshop from Monday. So Without any further ado, I want to get to Stothy. He's not going to turn his camera on because he didn't take a shower today, but that's okay. We gave him a pass on that. Oh, I'm glad you're on mute because I don't want to hear what you just said. No.
Gosh, your hair looks awful. You should have washed it.
Come off mute, Stoth. You're on financial
yeah,
and operating
okay.
report.
I was talking to myself here, yes.
Yes.
I put on a shirt to look good for you, and I need to do something about my barber. Yes, Judd.
Very nice. All right, so let's talk financial operating as this month. Let's go through your summary, if you would.
So, we're talking budget summary or the financial summary for the month?
Financial.
Oh, okay. All right.
This month, last month.
Right. Let me just pull. So, I mean, we're still seeing obviously impacts from COVID and the recovery and all that. And, that'll lead into kind of the budget discussion later, but compared to budget, we're down almost 58%. Year to date, we're off about 49%. And compared to last year, we're down about 49%, which, isn't surprising because last year we had, several months of parking being free. We had relaxed enforcement, didn't do any enforcement for those few months. So that is completely consistent with what was happening. On the expense side, we've been doing a very good job, credit to Rocky and his team, of managing expenses. It's down 50% compared to budget, and year to date compared to budget, it's off about 33%, it's down 33%. Compared to last year, it's even down over 28%. Transient activity, that those demands year to date compared to last year is still off 47%, which is not surprising. We had assumed that transient demand was going to be at about 50% of pre-COVID demand. So we're right, we're pretty much right there. That was in the pre-opening plan, if you remember, that we went through. And transient revenue year to date's down about over 68% compared to the budget. Excuse me. Permit activities off about 18%. And if you remember, compared to the reopening plan, we had assumed that permit demand was going to vary by location between 80 to 100% of pre-COVID demand. So that is in line as well. Let's see, I had some other notes here about, our actual permit revenue as a percent of the year-to-date parking revenue is about 51%. So it's an important part of your revenue stream, but it's, I think, the relatively stable part of it. So that's something to keep in mind. Almost
say that again, Stoth. You said
so. Permit revenue accounts for 51% of actual parking revenue.
Got you.
And we're down 58%.
Right. So, and as far as credit cards, we're still collecting, a high percent, almost 76% of revenues is collected via credit cards. And the pay by sell activity, which we, always like to report on, is still, strong, but obviously it's had an impact from the pandemic. So the average transaction for the month is $2.53. Pre-COVID, like back in December 2019, that average transaction was about $3.65. So compared to last month, the average transaction's down a little bit, but that fluctuates month to month. number of transactions compared to last year, for year to date is down 37%, and revenues off about 58% compared to last year. And pay by cell activity represents about 17% of all transactions system-wide, and represents about almost 8% of the revenue. On the enforcement side, issuance is off, but that, and that still even includes the beaches and Oyster Shell Park. If you factor out the beaches and Oyster Shell, it's off like 75%. Customer courtesy program.
Wait, so just back on the beaches.
Yeah.
That's not our revenue, right?
I'm sorry. No, it's the revenue from the beaches on the tickets. Yes, it is.
Yeah. The violation money is ours.
Not the parking transaction. That goes to the Public Works Department or the city.
Okay.
And feel free to bring that up in new or old business, Eric.
And we don't,
Okay.
Stas, we don't do any maintenance of the parking over there. That's all done by parks, right?
Correct. We don't do anything except supply the system on which these tickets are written and processed and collected.
Mm-hmm.
But we also handle the appeals, right?
And the appeals,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, that's the system he's talking about.
Right. So the appeals, yes, are part of that. And so administrative reviews of tickets, when the appeal comes through, we do that. That has certainly been a big task. But it's not, something we wouldn't continue to do if you didn't want us to do it. All right, the customer courtesy program. So that has obviously had some changes this year. We've increased the number of program days. In December, there were 30 program days. We issued over 2,300 courtesy tickets. We've given out about almost 1,200 in additional meter time.
Mm-hmm.
And the violations that were issued, after the courtesy time expired, was about 667 tickets. So the value of the courtesy tickets, if they were all valid tickets, was over $41,000. And year to date, and that's only 6 months now, that's worth $311,000, or it had a value of $311,000 in tickets that were not issued. And that is almost twice what the entire 12-month period of fiscal year 2020 was. So it's been a generous program by MPA standards and for what it was trying to achieve. That's really all I have on the report. I know you wanted to get into the budget, so I was trying to make it as quick as possible, unless there's some questions. And Rocky, you have anything to add? Anything?
Rocky's on mute.
Oh,
There he is.
I missed something, or there was something new going on.
No, you covered everything almost.
Stati, I want you to go all the way back up to the top for a second and talk a little bit about the chart that is transit activity by facility year to date through December 2020. It's the second chart on the second page of your presentation, right after executive summary. See it?
Oh, on the hold on, let me open that up. I don't even have that open.
Oh, okay.
Going off of something else. On the ops report, you mean?
Correct.
Gotcha. So the second page after the executive summary, where it says transient activity or
By
permit.
facility. Yeah.
Oh, yes, transient activity by facility. Gotcha. You want me to share my screen?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It feels to me like On Street is recovering faster than everything else in our inventory. Does that feel right to you?
Well, it's the most convenient, obviously. And if parking overall is down, then it would make sense. Yeah, that would be where all the activity would be.
Okay.
So just so there's clarity on what this graph represents, it's not revenue, it's actually the number of transactions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just activity is what I'm thinking. I was thinking about the too, because it really is quite interesting that is. And the other thing that I wanted to talk briefly about is the library parking lot. Is that library parking lot costing us anything to just sit there locked?
Not really, there's very little expenses in it, but Rocky might, if there's, what are we actually doing there? There's not
Yes,
much.
yes. During snow time, we're doing clean up the snow, so that's a snow expense that we're going to have at the library lot, and also minor maintenance of the parking lot. Going and cleaning the parking lot with our staff.
But why is it locked?
Oh,
Why is it? What? Eric, I didn't hear you.
Why is it locked?
But it's not locked. It is open.
locked.
It's just that
Oh, okay.
Then nobody's using it.
it's just that nobody's using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had discussed just putting a chain across it so that we didn't have to spend any time, energy, or money on it during this time, because it is not being used at all. And it's, but I think it's just too insignificant a savings to worry about, really. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what would we really save if we put a chain across it and said, hey, when the library is full again and open again and running again, we'll get back to it. But until then, are we leasing that? We're leasing that, right?
I believe in part.
I don't recall.
I don't know.
arrangement.
Milligan
I think there's a lease.
had like a long-term lease, and Milligan owns part of it or all of it.
I don't even think it's a long-term lease, quite frankly.
Well,
I think the final deal was the final deal was either 5 or 10 years, and I think we're paying something on it. We should check.
Well, I think it brings up an interesting thought that if there's a way for us to contract our reach and things like that exist, then we should look at them and get them off our books.
yeah, I mean, on this topic, my question is, would it make sense to close the top decks of the Maritime Garage, or the top 2 floors of the Maritime Garage and the Yankee Doodle, or something like that, just so we have less area? I mean, your people would still go there periodically to inspect it, but we wouldn't have people parking up there. And would that simplify things and save some money?
But and Chad, the same thing for the Webster lot. I mean, why not, why not cordon off, the area, the most unused area,
Yeah, good
which,
point.
if I envision, is the area outside of the reserved spaces for Seatown. Why not eliminate that whole area of the Webster lot from availability, and which means no longer available for parking.
So, I mean, we can look at that, for you, where there are some ways to do that. But I think the thing we would have to look at is, what does that actually really save you? I mean, the benefit of having kind of an unattended, kind of really automated system that you do is that all those costs are spread over, those facilities. So aside from, say, snow removal on the roof decks, aside from maybe the weight load that we might have to consider, you know, what does it really save? Can we save some lighting expense if we had an electrician come and, you know, and split out each level?
Yeah, I was only thinking
At some
of
point, you just got to think of
snow
whether
removal.
if it's worth the savings in a short-term scenario.
I was only thinking of snow removal.
I think definitely for snow removal, you could, you know, maybe make it a little bit easier to plow if you just cordoned off a big section of a place like Webster Lot and just piled it there or something. But for the structures, I don't know if I would be in favor of closing off a floor or two, because they still need to be maintained. They still need to be cleared and cleaned and maintained. We cannot give that up, you know? I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we're there yet. I think it's a little bit more of a drastic measure that I don't think we're there yet for. You know what I mean? But I just the topic of the library lot for me, I just want to make sure, because we know that it's not going to get used until they really open the doors of the library. I know the library's on. It's a appointment only, I guess, right now, right? The library. It's not shut. It's just at a minimum capacity right now. If there's something that's truly cost saving, that's not going to hurt us, that we can, you know, hold that lot off for a little while. But again, it's not pennies, I think, because as Stati said, you know, everything we do is sort of spread over all of our properties. It doesn't really cost much to send the guys through once in a while and to keep it at least looking presentable.
Is on the assumption that we're going to continue like we are now, say for 6 months, and then things will start to improve. You know, I know in the past at the Yankee Doodle, we rented space out to McMahon Ford for car storage.
We still do.
Right. And is that possible to do maybe to other dealers? I know, you know, I used to see a lot of brand new cars in an empty lot on MLK, a private lot. But, you know, could we do that at the Maritime or part of the Webster lot? Just a thought, you know, I don't know anything about it. And I don't know how long those leases are or how long the car dealership needs.
Has the new car industry returned?
My understanding is, well, the used cars are selling like crazy.
Yes, right now. It's not out of the question. I mean, I could see. I don't know what I would do that though. I still think this whole thing is more temporary than that. I mean, what would you have to do? Offer them a year? Offer them?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything more than that because,
right.
You know, my assumption is a year from now we'll be on the upswing here.
I don't know. And I don't know what the legal ramifications of that are. I don't know if we're even allowed to, but it'd be interesting. All right. So wait, let's not get too far away from the budget.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the agenda. Where Stati was talking financial and operating. Are there more questions or any questions? I only had the first couple. Does anybody else have anything for Stath? All right, because we're going to get into all of that, I think, but let's go to Jess and ask her to speak in Vanessa's place, and also she's got a few things under capital report. Jess, are you there?
I am here. Hello, everybody.
Yay.
Just wanted to find the thing that I opened up on my screen to show you all. I know it's open. Let me see. Sorry, guys. Oh, there it is. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so what you are looking at is the North Water Street lot that is at North Water Street and Washington. And I can zoom in a little bit so you can take a peek. So basically, we've been talking to DOT about the Walk Bridge project, and this is something that you've heard about before. It relates to the demolition of the IMAX, and the IMAX is currently over in this area here.
It's here, over to the right, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
It's okay.
Not the grass, not that area, right here. Good one. And we, as the city, had asked DOT to consider demolishing the IMAX theater sooner rather than later. And there were a couple of reasons for that. One was that we knew that traffic was slower due to COVID. And so we wanted to utilize that time. But in addition to that, and I think more so, we actually really wanted to get the IMAX demolition done before the peak of summer, and hoping that COVID will pass sooner rather than later. And also hoping that the IMAX being demolished would mean that the parking spaces required for the demolition would be at minimum, if not any, right, by the time summer comes. So the thought was to peel off this particular IMAX demolition from the Walk Bridge project and ask DOT to prioritize it, to be able to say, hey, if you take parking spaces now and you demolish it in an expedited fashion, then it should take between 4 to 5 months for you to demolish it and clean everything up. And so by the time we hit June, we'll have the parking spaces back, the IMAX will no longer be there, and we can continue on. So what Vanessa and the team had talked to CDOT was taking the parking spaces that are in the pink area, right, that pink square. And, what Vanessa said to me is that this is probably more than likely more spaces than what they actually need. But instead of coming back and continuously asking for more spaces over and over and over again, they wanted to ask for the spaces that they thought they may need, although they anticipate it being less area. Okay, so the timeline would be a 5-month time period. And that would actually be starting anytime after February the 1st. And so the question then is, well, how the heck are we going to know when these spaces are actually being used and when they're not being used, and when does that 5 month start? So the answer to that is that Vanessa has a weekly meeting with the Walk Bridge team. And during that weekly meeting, they will indicate to her the timing of when DOT needs the actual spaces, right? So although the easement would start February 1st, they don't need the spaces February the 1st. And the question will be, well, when do they need the spaces? And the answer, although not a good one, is, well, we don't know exactly when they're going to need those spaces, but we are going to talk to them on a weekly basis. And as soon as we do know when they need the spaces, Vanessa and I will notify you as the parking authority and as well as LAS to let you know when that time is going to happen. So I think another question is, well, what about the parking spaces, the handicap parking spaces, and what are we going to do with that? So I talked to Vanessa about it, and Vanessa had recommended moving the parking spaces over to outside of the pink, so over where the white is, and that we would do that on a temporary basis for the 5 months, and that when DOT was done with this particular area, that we would then have the spaces back in their original spot here. So I think that, I think it's not ideal that they need the spaces. I do think that they are trying to work their best they can with the city to be able to expedite the project so that by the time summer comes, the easement will be lifted, the parking spaces will be back in rotation, and we won't need to worry about that. I think the other piece of it that's important to note is that DOT has taken a number of different properties that are adjacent to the river through eminent domain, and we definitely don't want to enter one of those conversations with them. So I think the idea was to partner with DOT as best we could to be able to get them to expedite the project, get them to be able to bring the IMAX down, and then open those spaces back up for the height of summer. So this is one of those projects that I know just enough to be dangerous on, and but Vanessa does know all the details. So, she is in a capital budget meeting with the Planning Commission tonight, but she did ask me to speak to you about this. And I think, if there are any questions, I can do my best to answer them. But if I can't answer them, then I'll point them to Vanessa, and Vanessa can respond to the group.
that's fine. I mean, I think what we spoke about earlier was maybe asking Vanessa to just send us an email with anything that we didn't hear yet or need to know, but that's fine. I do have a question. Do you think we need the handicap spaces anymore if the IMAX theater is gone?
So she was saying that she didn't think that we needed 2 spaces, but she did think that we may need 1, and that she was going to look into it a little bit further, and she was going to talk to Dot about it, and that
Okay.
Depending on what we need, she would figure it. She would help to coordinate that.
Okay.
Um,
Anybody have anything else? Eric?
Yeah, just my hunch on I think you still need at least one ADA space because of the public boardwalk that's there. But aside from, they can figure that out. But aside from that, so Vanessa, the 5-month period, so everything in pink would be taken out of commission for 5 months.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So during that 5 months, they'll use it however they need to use it, and in the end, we get it back.
Yep, that's correct. So,
Yeah.
And the point is, I guess, is that they're not going to need, the easement is good. The easement will begin February the 1st, but they don't need the parking. They don't need the pink area as of February the 1st, right? So they're going to allow us to continue using those parking spaces as we see fit until the time in which they need them. And at the time in which they need them, they're going to let Vanessa know, and then Vanessa's going to connect with all of us to let us know, and specifically Laz, right, to be able to do the operational groundwork that's required to be able to cordon that area off. So although the demolition will take 5 months, I don't think those spaces will be taken for the complete 5 months. However, they've been really conservative, not only on time, but also on the number of spaces they need, so that they're well covered and they don't need to come back and ask for additional time or additional spaces.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. I mean, it sounds very clean that way. So, that way there's no occasional use by the public and then, non-public, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, all this makes sense to me. Are there any fees from them on this?
No,
Okay.
because it's not, what I did say is an easement, and in fairness, it's actually not an easement. It's a right of entry. So normally we look at right of entry for construction purposes, and this is things that we've done on other projects as well. And an easement would have a dollar figure attached to it, especially a permanent easement. But in this case, I know I use the terminology easement, but it's actually a right of entry for construction purposes.
Right. Yeah, they're not paying us any fees, but they're also not eminent domaining it away from us forever. So it's a trade-off. I have a quick thought, and I think we brought this up last month just briefly, but since we know that February 1 it goes into effect, even though they may not actually start, do we want to get some signs up from the Norwalk Parking Authority that says something about the use coming up for the next 5 months of a portion of this space, so we can tell our people what's coming? Or is that signage coming from someone else, or is there no need for signage at all? I don't know. What do you think?
I would say no.
I think that signage should come from DOT, and we'll work with them to be able to put signage up. But I think that that's something that I think that that's an operations item that we can work with Laz on. But I think that DOT should be able to cover the cost of that and be able to cover the signage piece of that. I don't think that's something that the parking authority should be able to cover as part of this right of entry.
Okay.
And
Great.
if that changes and they feel differently, then I will come back to you and let you know. But I definitely would advocate, Laz and I will advocate that that's a transportation, that's a DOT cost.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anybody else? Rocky, unmute.
Jess, when they do the handicap space, can we ask them if they can do it closer to the pay station where the other entrance is instead of just by the fence?
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Yep, good. Thanks for catching that, Rocky. Absolutely.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Not just a pretty face, Rocky. Jess, what else?
So the East Avenue lot. So
Yeah.
we've been in conversations, and Vanessa's been leading those conversations with DOT on the East Ave train station. And my understanding is that they are in a position to clear the snow and do the maintenance on that lot, but that Laz will have to continue doing maintenance on the particular sidewalk. So on the sidewalks surrounding the lot. So I actually have a call with DOT tomorrow, a gentleman named Mr. Baker, to be able to talk through what that looks like. But the last that I did talk to Vanessa, DOT would like to take maintenance over on the lot. That means that we don't need to shovel it. We don't need to clear it at this particular time, that they're going to be handling that moving forward. But again, the sidewalks are the parking authority's responsibility to clear.
Okay.
And I think we talked about that maybe 2 or 3 months ago now, that we had said that we would coordinate with DOT to be able to take the lot over sooner rather than later so that we could avoid shoveling it. So that is the case.
And as they take this back over, are they going to give it back and take it back and give it back? Or is this the start of the next 7-year project that they're working on? Like, is it gone? Is it gone now?
I don't feel as though it is gone, because I don't feel as though the East Ave Railroad Station is going to be in flux for the next 7 years. So I don't know the duration of what that looks like, and I can talk to Vanessa about it. So I don't know the specific answer, but I do not believe that it is gone for the next 7 years.
Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. If you could return my screen, I'll get back to the agenda. Excellent. There it is. Old business. In-person payment policy, re-tickets. This was a topic we were talking about early on, about bringing your ticket in within 24 hours and getting $5 off the fee. Originally, I had that in my mind to be more, but it seems to be working out. I just wanted to, what was the discussion we had last month about it? Didn't we talk about this last month?
I don't think it came up last month. I think it came up in an email. So I think there were 2 questions, and those are the questions under the old business. So question A and question B.
Right. And I think it was Eric's question. Was that your question, Eric?
Yes, it was. And it's not so much about, if you want me to elaborate.
Yeah, absolutely.
My question related to that is, why does it have to be in person? I think it's a good thing to offer to offer it. But if I'm across town and I have a ticket and I have to pay it in person to drive across town and then pay another parking meter to save $5, it's really not. It's really not much, So that was my only question. Does it have to be in person?
So the answer, and I could let Rocky answer this, I think, but the answer has to do with the logistics online and the other ways of paying. I think it would have to be, well, I don't know what we'd have to do to make that happen, right? Some sort of 24-hour timer on the ticket, and then being allowed to pay the bill with a $5 coupon or something. Is that possible, Rocky?
Yes, that is possible. But the only issue that we had when we implemented this program was when tickets are issued during the daytime, they don't get exported until the next day. So if people are trying to make the payment while they got the ticket on the same day, they won't be able to access it online. Most of them not to pay the fee.
Any idea what percent tickets are paid in person to take advantage of this discount?
Yes, most people do take advantage of this discount. And I don't have the number top of my head, but most people do take the advantage.
And they come in person to pay.
They come in person to pay, correct?
Wow.
Well, maybe it's not an issue. I don't want to waste everybody's time on it. It just seemed like
It
seemed like it was not what it could be.
It could be done, Eric, but the only issue is that when people are trying to is if you get a ticket today now and you go online to make a payment, that ticket is not exported to the ticket payment system. So you will encounter a problem, and it will actually bring at the end more concern from customers.
Yeah, and this isn't unusual in other communities either.
Yeah.
Where it's in person, like Hartford does it that way as well.
And is Hartford $5 also?
I don't recall when
But it's something.
I used to be involved in running the system. I don't remember what it was. It was, I think it might have been a % off, but it equated to something similar. I just didn't remember. I can check if you want.
And I think I do remember when we first implemented this, having a discussion about the problem that Rocky described to us, in that there's not a big lag, but there's a lag in the ticketing, so you can't just jump online and pay it. And that I've run into actually in Greenwich. I ran into that. I tried to pay a ticket the day I got it, and it didn't show up, and I couldn't pay it. I had to wait till the next day, or I think I waited a couple days, and then I paid it. So I think that's
what if the waiting period was, what if the grace, not the grace period, but what if the period of time was 48 hours? It seems like that would satisfy it too.
You just want to give it all away, don't you? Damn it.
Well, it just feels so, it's sort of disingenuous if $5 turns into $3.50.
Well, so there's two spots right inside the Maritime Garage, that 2 or 3 spots, correct me if I'm wrong, that are 15-minute free spots to do business in the parking office, right? So you can go into the Maritime lot and turn quick right there. There's a, what is that, Rocky? There's a electric charging. Then there's 2 spots, I think, that say 15-minute temporary spots.
Correct.
And that's where you park for free to go into the office to do your parking business.
Okay. I mean,
so if you know that it's free to do. If you don't know that, obviously you're paying for parking to go pay for your parking ticket.
Pay for parking. But if this is something that's working, we can move on. I just,
okay.
It just, if it's working, let's leave it alone. It just seems, it just doesn't. It just seems.
Yeah, funny. I feel like it's working. I mean, there is a few jumps in technology that we want to take coming forward, including the touchless and things like that might bring some of these systems closer together, or a little quicker, or a little better, where we can revisit it. But I think right now we're just leave it the way it is. Yeah.
All right. It's hard for me to hear the reason that we're not doing something is because it's hard, and this sounds like we're not doing it because it's hard, and it just.
Well, no, I think we're not doing it because we have to. Our systems don't allow us to upload those tickets the minute they're written. I could see that happening in the future sometime, but right now we have to work with the system that we own.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, all right, we can move on. It just seems weird, but if it's working, let's leave it alone.
For now. Get out of the pandemic. The convenience fee for the online ticketing payments is a good one though, but I don't know that might not be in our hands. Can you expand on that, guys? Sirach, Rocky, or Stath?
Yeah, I think Rocky can touch on it, but it wasn't just for online tickets. I think it was for pay by cell payments, right, Rock?
Correct. We did reach out to Park Mobile, Eric, and unfortunately they were not willing to discount that convenience fee, and the reason that they gave out was transaction as it is has already decreased, which is their income, and they analyzed the Park Mobile transactions that are being done in Norwalk, and they told us the average Park Mobile customer transact 2.1 times a month in Norwalk. And for an individual, that the saving will be very minimal. But on our overall transaction, the loss that the Park Mobile incurs is going to be higher. So they are not willing, at this time at least, they're not willing to reduce the convenience fee.
Okay, who else does the same service as Park Mobile? Because this
Let's
is
kick 'em
another
out.
instance. This is another instance where we've had a question about fees, and the answer is,
So
you know, this is the way we do it. So no.
yeah, we actually did, Eric, to on the other piece that we implemented on the text to park, that will be reduced. And I forgot, Rocky, what that was.
Yeah, they're going to reduce it by 5 cents.
Because I know if, you know, credit card, and I don't, again, in my email, I pointed out I don't do retail, so I don't know a lot about credit card transactions. But I know when I make a credit card transaction that there's a % fee charged by the card company. And 5% is excessive. It's more than American Express, and which is, from what I understanding, is the higher end of what credit card companies charge. And so, you know, I understand they would be paying their portion of what they would owe to American Express, but then they're making a profit off of it, which is, you know, it's almost like, you know, making a profit off of a postage stamp. You know, it's just, I don't agree with that business practice. And so if there's a way to do it differently, then it's maybe we should even change the name from a convenience fee to just handling fee, because it's certainly not a convenience.
That's a good point.
That's not, I mean, that's not our term.
It's not our,
that's the industry term, and that's what all the vendors call it. I mean, that's what they call it. I mean, we could have it labeled.
Well, it's just like, you know, I mean, I think we should be sensitive about the wording that we use. You know, it's like we have a vehicle that drives around town with the word enforcement written larger than life letters, you know, and it's just like, look at the message that sends. You know, it's not, you know, to call something a convenience when it's really a taking advantage of is, you know, I think we have the latitude to control how we in Norwalk represent what it takes to pay a fee. And I really don't care what other municipalities have.
Well, Eric, I mean, it's a transaction fee.
Yeah, call it that. But, you know, I don't think the knife that's being stabbed in somebody's back should be called anything but a knife in the back. You know?
So, I mean, we can see what it actually looks like during the transaction. I mean, we're calling it that because that's just what it's typically referred to as, but how it shows up on the payment screen, I mean, we can look into that and make it look a little more customer friendly.
Okay, I mean, I just, you know, again, I liken it to that truck, to that vehicle with, you know, larger than life letters of enforcement, like we're supposed to run for a permit or something. You know, it's just not the way it should be.
Yeah, we can look at that too. We can change the image of that. I mean, I think one of them says customer service.
That's better.
But I mean, if you remember, if we go back in history, the customer service was supposed to have a totally different program. So it was distinct. So the lettering is distinct. So we can do that. We can have all the vehicles say customer service. Some of them are going to be doing enforcement. Some wouldn't be, I guess. But there's certainly options.
It's going to take a lot more thought than just this right now. But I just think if we're worried about our image, I think we need to call it spade a spade. And if it's a transaction fee, then, which it is, then I think anything that tries to disguise it as something like a convenience is disingenuous.
That's a good point. Let's see what we can do. I mean, it feels like it's more on the third party hands, but if we can change it on our end, it sounds like a good thing to look into.
Yeah, it's little, but you know, it all adds up.
Okay, that's okay. And you know, I'm gonna blame this on COVID, something I try not to do, but we started a discussion over the summer about signage, and I started the discussion about signage by saying that I felt as though a lot of our signage was written in the negative way, and that I feel like there are more positive ways to say the same thing. And I think that as we come out of this very difficult budgeting season and pandemic, I do want to get back to that thought and look at everything, and look at other towns, how they do it, look at other towns' signs and how they do it, and just try to maybe make that whole thing a little bit more friendly. But it's not for today. I don't think we have so much on our plate. You're right, but I think it's something we're going to have to get back to. Okay, so let's spend some time talking about the budget. Did you guys get an opportunity that's in your packet now to look at? Oh no, it's not in your packet. To look at Rocky's
Rocky's
email. Hey, Rocky. Yes.
I have an update on the on business.
Oh, okay, great.
Eric, the dumpster at the Webster on the Maritime Garage.
Oh, yeah.
The condo association did send out the letter advising the restaurant owners to terminate the contract, and that has been terminated. Eric.
Thank you.
So the local restaurant down the street is no longer using the dumpster in the Maritime Garage. Is that what I'm?
That is correct, yes.
And we are no longer paying to empty it.
Well, we are, but we're paying to empty it because it's our garbage, not because it's other people's.
Yeah, good.
Now you put yourself on mute again, Rocky. You have to unmute.
Yeah, we never paid for that dumpster because the dumpster is paid by the condo association.
Oh,
Our garbage is separate, Eric.
gotcha. But it sounds like that's been rectified, so we're good. Nice. Does anybody else have anything under? What was I under?
Old
Old
business.
business, new business. Judd, where are my bolsters?
Jess and I are working on it.
Okay. Thank you.
That's very kind, Judd.
All right. So Rocky sent an email with the budget suggestions. Did we all get that email? Was that to everyone? I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yep. So Maritza would have sent it out, but I don't know if Stathy wants to share his screen or Rocky wants to share his screen. And Mike, if that might be helpful for everybody to look through it all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to share the PDF,
Right.
the one that we were talking about earlier.
Correct.
Okay.
Shoot, I thought I had it here too. I guess I don't.
Let's see. Sorry, bear with me.
Yep.
Why can't I find? Oh, here we go. That's it right there.
Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, I think
You should be able
see
to.
it? You see it now?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, hold on.
Anthony, can you make sure? Oh,
There
okay,
we
good.
go.
Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Yep. Yeah. This is where we were. So Stati and I had a conversation, and I'll start this conversation up. In my vision, going to the council for a budget of 7.3 right now, starting next June, is too aggressive. It's exactly what we would want if it were sort of status quo, and obviously it is not. The actual this year for this year is 5.6. And so my thought was, let's try to put together a budget that's somewhere in the middle. And after a long conversation with Stati, we chose 6.2. And what we're going to try to do is ask Laz to come up with a vision for us of what a parking authority for Norwalk looks like at $6.2 million a year. It may not be enough. It may not work well. It may not have enough people in it. It may not have enough enforcement in it. It may not cover our debt service, which is up this year, $350,000. It may not cover salaries and things, but I want to look at it. And I want to see if we can reduce the budget by that much going into our budget season of July 1, which starts July 1. And kind of shoot a little bit low and then come back with the recovery in an effort not to overshoot and be short again. Because we just can't predict, I don't think. I think there is going to be a recovery, absolutely, but I believe that the parking attitude and the vision of how parking is being used is going to be different. I think everyone's going to be out there driving and parking, but it's going to look different than it has in the past between, the commuter lot, the commuters monthly, and the transients and the people coming for pickup and delivery for food and how all that works. It's going to be different. And I'm just a little nervous about bringing on a full size budget going into July 2021. So that's kind of where my head is at, and I want to start that off by hearing from you guys about what you guys think.
Just one question. Steph and Rocky, is there a way to know, I'm sure there's a way to know how much of our revenue comes from commuter traffic, people parking and getting on the train? Because I think some of what you're saying, Mike, is directly tied to train usage.
Yep.
So when does the train usage uptick? Because there'll be an automatic uptick for us, is a question. And I know no one knows that right now. But
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just wondering if have you heard any projections from, like Metro North on what they're anticipating their ridership to be in the near and distant future?
I haven't, I'm not sure if Rocky's heard something differently, but I think everything is so unknown because MTA would be looking at, what's happening in New York City. And New York City's probably figuring out how we're going to get the vaccines out fast enough. So I think if we take an approach where we kind of look at every revenue source and we drill down into it, I think we can come up with some pretty good estimates of what percentage of transient revenue is due to commuters as opposed to just visitors or other users. And that'll be, basically by facility. So if we think about the railroad station garage in East Norwalk, that's pretty simple to figure out. When it comes to Webster, that's probably a little different because most of the lot is for local business, but there is a segment of the user base that actually is a commuter. They'll park over at the the southwest corner past Seatown because that's the closest location to the train station. So we'd have to do a little more work on figuring that out. But we could I think the whole reason for the discussion with Mike and And the conversation around it was, there's just so much uncertainty. When we put this first together, it was probably, a few months ago. So, I think we all thought, oh, well, by the beginning of fiscal year 2022, July of 2021, we've got to be back to normal. And that, may not actually be happening, because some people may, if New York doesn't reopen, that's where our commuters are going, then nobody's going to be in those facilities. If people are allowed to work from home, that has a different impact even on the other facilities. So I think our task is going to be really to look at each revenue segment, and see, maybe look at the last few months, see what's going on, see what's going on kind of in the world, and vaccine distribution, and administering. I think the health of the revenue stream and the activity here is really going to be directly tied to, the vaccination of the population. So there's an element of, guesswork too. So I think that's where we're going to need, everybody's kind of input, and we'll come back and, with something so we can hash through it.
Well, generally speaking, the numbers you were running through at the very beginning, I kept hearing, 58%, 50%, the numbers that were referencing half, are, several times on various numbers. And if there's if the commuter portion of our revenue is the majority of our budget, of our revenue, then, I think what people are saying is that, the market, the office usage is not going to come back 100% once we're out of the woods with COVID. So if it comes back 50% for the first few years, then the numbers that you were referencing at 50% for our budget is only going to go up 25%. So I don't think it, I think we need to, find or understand, if commuter writing goes back to 75% of what it was, then that's, theoretically a 25% increase for us from where we are today.
It'd be a 50% increase.
Be a 50%.
Well, but we're already
of the
at
25.
50. Yeah, it'd be 25% more. So then there's still a hole in our revenue, in our need for revenue. If COVID disappeared, and people, the trend from what I'm understanding, the trend is not going to be that everyone that used to commute is going to start commuting again. Working from home has worked too well for a lot of people, and they're not going to. So that would say to me, what are the other reasons people would use parking? And that is, I'm sorry, that's my dog. The other reasons people would use parking is to come to the core areas of Norwalk, Wall Street, East Norwalk, and South Norwalk, for things like, entertainment and local office workers. So Jessica, it'd be interesting to see or have a discussion about what correlations there are, if any, related to increasing the vibrancy of our urban core areas.
Yep, understood. And I think that, what I can do is I can get together with Steffi and Rocky and basically look at commuter versus street versus surface versus, and talk through what you're saying and figure out some numbers. But I think I think that the only way to be able to do this is to make assumptions, and we can make some more conservative consumptions, or we can make some more flexible consumption or assumptions. But I do think that, to each of your points, we need to put a few assumptions in place and kind of calculate or be able to project against those. So I hear what you're saying, Eric, and I think you're absolutely right. And I do think that the commuter piece has a large impact on it as well. So understanding if we were to look at surface and street, but then reduce the transient monthly permit, I think we need to play with those numbers a little bit.
Yeah, because I think it's safe to think that if COVID disappeared today, that ridership's not going to immediately go back to what it was. And so conservatively, if we assume that ridership goes back to 60% of what it was, would it ramp up to that, or would it be that from day one? Or, I think if we're going to count on something, I think we need to have a lower number of anticipated ridership.
Absolutely, right? So if your revenue, and this is just hypothetical, but if your revenue is 84% commuters at the stations, right? And then you're only getting a subset of that, you're only getting 40% or 50% of that, and it's ramping up over time. And then what does that revenue look like, right? And so you're almost trying to back into a number. And I would say that you want to reduce your street and surface parking by a certain percentage, because that's just a reflection of what's going on from a business standpoint. But the commuter side, you want to take that 84% and reduce that down to even half, and basically try to figure it out from there. So I think, we'd almost just be backing into numbers by making assumptions. And I think that as long as the assumptions are documented correctly and we have a good handle on what that looks like, then we can come down to that. And to Mike's point, if we're looking at, revenue of, 5.5 or 5.1 or whatever that happens to be, then we can also back into those numbers, right? So if you were anticipating a $5.5 million revenue, and X% was coming from commuters and X% was coming from your surface street spots, then what does that look like? And I think, I think we can do that exercise.
Yeah.
If that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, that would, me, that would be very helpful, because we have multiple baskets, and I don't know how many eggs are in each one or how many need to be in each one. And I just don't think we should think about this as COVID versus non-COVID, because it's not going to snap back to the way it was in a non-COVID world, because people have gotten too comfortable, with working from home, and companies have gotten comfortable with it. And I don't think we've gotten the full, we've not realized the full impact of that on everything, ridership, commercial real estate, all of it. So anyway, yes, that would be for me, it would be very helpful to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so listen, the thought at 30,000 feet for me is that if we can come up with a smaller budget, and then, and I've already asked the question, and then learn about the mechanism we're going to need, I believe, to adjust the budget up slowly with the recovery, then it puts us in sort of a catbird seat to make sure that our budget and our needs are being matched by our, by our budget. So what we can do is, if we did a 6.2 budget and we figured out the mechanism to adjust our budget in this middle of the year, third quarter, we could say, all right, listen, the commuters went back. Somebody rang the bell in Manhattan, and the younger crowd all jumped on the train and are back, fighting for spots. And we now have a 1-year waiting list again, and things are starting. So, okay, great. So now we need more people. We need to employ LAS more. We need to bring them back to manage all this. So our budget is going to go to, 6.8. And then in November, it's going to go to 7.2. It's going to come back, and we can walk it back up. What we can't do is the opposite. I don't want to, come up with a 7.3 budget and then get shortfalled again. That
Yeah,
would
no,
be bad.
completely agree. Yes.
Judd?
In mind, I mean, when I look at these numbers, even the six, what was the number you said, 6.1?
6.2 is sort of the goal in my head. It's
To me, going forward for the next fiscal year, that seems a little high. And if it were up to me, I'd be down around this 5.6 because, as you said, we can always ramp it up. What we can't do is if we, overshoot our budget, what are we going to do? We're stuck.
it's a good thought. It's a good thought. And I talked, Stathi and I talked through that thought. And the thing that you have to remember is last year, we shut down and stuck the key in the door for 2 months and lost over $1 million immediately.
Right.
And that's not going to happen again.
Right.
Predictability, I guess nothing's absolute, right? But
right. I understand.
there is no vision to shutting parking off again in the near future. So that's why I softened it, because I was talking to him about the 5.6. Let's get to the 5.6, and it was a good discussion that all factors involved, that a 6.2 was pretty comfortable. And quite frankly, we don't know if it's achievable yet. And we don't know if there's a mechanism to adjust a budget going through the year to bring it back. That's a question that's going to be answered, I don't know when, over the next days or weeks, as we run it through the city's finance department. There needs to be a vehicle to do that. Otherwise, we just can't do it. I don't think so.
So I guess your question is there a way, do you have the authority to restate your budget before before it actually starts again? Because that may make, that may give you some flexibility if we're wrong one way or another. But the only other part I'll just suggest, in our talks with Mike, is that while 6.2 might have sounded like a good number, I think the number is going to be the number once we go back. And I think we all agree that this was done, at the time, with the current information we had and our belief of what was going to happen in the future. So now things have changed. I think, Rocky and I at least need to go back and look location to location, because every location has got its own little, demand circles, and it's got its own little user mix of revenue sources, and they're all a little different. So I think we're kind of like we did when we did the reopening plan. We kind of have to look at each facility a little separately, and make some reasonable assumptions. And then the revenue is going to be where the revenue is, and we're going to make sure that the expenses get adjusted where we can to make sure that it's not operating at a loss. And that's just, what we would do. Even if we overshot it, we're going to know that. We're going to make adjustments along the way. So we're going to make sure that we make adjustments to the budget, so it is net positive or not losing anything.
So help me with the
adjustments to the expenses.
To the expenses, yeah, because once the revenue, we kind of have reasonable assumptions. We all say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Then we're going to look at, okay, what are we going to adjust? Are we going to defer any items like some repairs and maintenance, line striping? Obviously, the staff, this assumes coming back at a certain level. We're just not going to rehire, and we'll continue, with how we're doing it now. With some reasonable assumptions of growth. So, I'm not too worried that we can't get to, a capital outlay, excuse me, or a net operating surplus that's just like even, and not a loss. At this point, we're not, but I think, as we go through the process, I think, it's going to yield its own results.
Are we, this may not be the right time for this question, but should we at this point revisit the policy of a courtesy card for everyone whose meter is expired and then ticket 20 minutes later?
I don't understand the question.
Well, we have, the policy right now is to give everyone whose meter is expired a courtesy card.
Right.
And Stothy was running through the impact of that on our revenue. Are we at a point to revisit that and put it back to the original parameters, which was it's a random occurrence that someone would get a 20-minute card?
Yeah, if you.
Yeah,
look at
understood.
Page 18, where there's the ticket issued versus demand. Not in this budget, I'm sorry, in the agenda. You know, our ticket issues versus demand is 1.47, which it was in September. I mean, that's a fairly low number historically.
Judd, are you on the ops report?
Yes, yes.
Not on, I'm not even sure if that's in.
No, he's back on the agenda, the backup for the agenda,
Page 18.
the one that Marissa sent out yesterday.
That's one.
Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Yes,
And what page was it?
18. Back up.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Oh, sorry.
There you are. You know, right down at the bottom of the page here, the ratio number, you see the last number for December is 1.47. You know, it's a little on the low side historically, right?
Yes. I mean, we're issuing courtesy cards to everybody, you know, now. But yeah, I mean,
Fiscal year, you know, I don't know. I mean, I look at July's number, 1.95%. You must have been giving out a few less or something, right?
Yeah. So
well,
rolling,
I mean, the
rolling
July
that back.
demands, there were, you know, we had an uptick in
demand.
activity too.
Okay.
So, but Eric, I think what you're talking about is, you know, rolling that back means 3 days a week instead, and those 3 days still very random and you know, Rocky's responsibility to choose, but instead of all the time, we're just, you know, that's the type of rollback that you're talking about, right?
Yes, just something so that, I mean, you could check with other municipalities, but I'm fairly confident that someone I know very well got a ticket in Greenwich recently for an expired meter.
Yeah.
So I don't know that other towns have any grace period.
I got one in Greenwich last week.
Yeah. So
Are you talking about me?
I wasn't going to use names. No, I just think it might be time for some of this to you know, at least practice wise, to return to normal. I mean, if somebody, you know, parking's parking, you know, and I think we've been, you know, regardless of how someone might couch it, I think we've gone about as far as we can go with not managing parking the way we should be managing it related to revenue.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think if you let us continue the program the way it was originally intended, we'll continue to do that. I mean, even with the way it was originally intended, with the program days, you know, changing and being sporadic and moving it around, it's, you know, you still have kind of set the bar when it's come to new programs and being ahead of the curve. I mean, you know, nobody that I really know of is doing a program like this. So, and you know, this is for the benefit of the public and people that come by. I think just because of everything that was going on with the pandemic, you know, we got to a point where it became less of like a surprise and a nice little thing when people started expecting it. And so then that defeats the purpose of the program. People are intentionally, not paying because they know they're going to get a courtesy card. Or I'm not saying that's widespread, but it's a totally different feel and impression to the program, the way it was originally intended in my view.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's fine with me. Remember, Eric, the violations portion of our budget is low. 10 to 12%, I think, as an average. So
maybe rather than make a decision on it tonight, maybe it's staff as you drill down on the numbers, you could determine whether it would make a meaningful difference or not to change, either go back to what it was or leave it the way it is now, or do something different altogether.
Just look at the program year to date. This is where you're at. So basically the violation, are so much more as a percentage. People are still violating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, violating, and also if they figured out the system, they're not paying the meters, maybe even, maybe they're just not paying at all. Where if we go back to the original intent and it's random, people are going to be more inclined to pay.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean, right?
Absolutely.
So, but on the other hand, the value of this program, and the positivity that it's brought has cost us $300,000, which although moves the needle, isn't a make or break, I don't think, on a $7 million budget.
There's other places to make that up.
Right. But I would definitely agree with the thought that we should, roll that back a bit, if for no other reason than to try to get these folks to, to pay more attention to the rules and regulations and not have so many violators.
And just to remember too, this 300,000 is only over 6 months. So annualized, it's significant.
That's right. Right.
So our policy right now is there's someone overstays time, by default, everybody gets a courtesy card.
Yes.
Right. Whereas we used to be 3 days a week random.
3 days a week. Rocky was up to really Rocky and the team.
Mm-hmm.
We could do 4 days a week or 5 days a week, or if we're going to change it, ease back into it.
Sure. That's an option. We can ask the guys to, take a day a month off until we get back to, 3 days a week. And even in those 3 days, it was random. It wasn't every one.
Mm-hmm.
And we left that up to them. I think that's fine.
So what are we going to do? What's our next step with this, if anything?
I think we should let Laz. I think we should let Laz roll that back a bit, or at least come back to us and give us a plan on how we can roll that back.
I think we kind of hear the temperature of where everybody's at. I'd say just instead of micromanaging it, just like empower Rocky to run the program like we originally intended, and let us keep reporting back. And as things change or we get complaints or issues, we can address them.
Yeah.
So that means we're going back to 3 days a week then.
That means we're not going to tell you, Judd. We're just going to do what we think is right. 'cause we hear you.
Okay, I know. Something like that. Okay, all right, we're going to empower you. I like
Right.
it. Okay.
All right.
Have to vote on it, Ernie?
Because then it puts you in an awkward position. I mean, you're a resident, you're on the board,
Yeah.
and somebody comes to you, well, how come I got a ticket? I thought you do this 3 or 4 days a week. Well, I don't know. It was only supposed to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Now you have this plausible deniability. Like, there's a program, it's in place, they run it, they're the experts. So if you violate it and you got a ticket, just pay it.
Thank you.
If you didn't, and you got the courtesy card, then congratulations.
Good.
Right.
Okay, well said.
All right. Stop. Let me have my screen back so I can
Okay.
take a quick look at this agenda.
I'm running out of battery charge.
I think we're all running out of battery.
and then not just my computer.
Where is that damn thing? Hold on a second. Don't swear on TV. You're on TV. The agenda. Excellent. All right. New business. So listen, to round off real quickly, we're going to let these guys manage the courtesy card program within parameters, and they're going to report back to us on how that's going. We're also going to ask them to give us a vision of what a $6.2 million budget looks like going into 2022, going into July 21, really. And that will be the bulk of our next meeting, actually, as an agenda item here. So tell me now about any new business that there may be as number 8 on our agenda. Anybody has new business? Judd,
Well,
give us some new business.
I think it's old business. I've brought it up before, and I think it's a budget issue. Talked about changing from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in Sono, as we do over on Wall Street already.
You're right. That is old business. We don't have any parking places left in Sono. They've taken them all.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the street?
Yes, only the streets. Yes, the street parking. And I don't know if that needs to be calculated. At one point a few months ago, I brought it up and we were going to see some numbers on it, potential numbers, because who knows what's going to happen. It's hard to predict. But
We can look back. We can look back on those notes, Judd, and I
thought we did that analysis, didn't we, Rocky?
Yeah, I appreciate the idea and I get it and all, but I think what we said was, let us get out of this pandemic before we start
okay.
changing anything.
I see. Okay. Maybe you might have to remind me.
And it's okay. I just,
No, that makes sense. I think you're right. That makes sense.
all right. What else? Well, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Eric, Judd, second. All those in favor?
Let me get Tom on the phone.
Tom, believe me, he just smiled. He doesn't know why, but he just smiled a little. All right, you guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, everybody.
Have a good night,
Yes,
everybody.
Di, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Okay,
good night.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye, Delene.